there was that kind of universal type of economic relations, such a global order to take place for many centuries, 600 years before, before the 18th century colonialism. Because they bring in jobs, right? They bring in economy. And this is the second argument I would like to make. Yeah? The British and the Dutch hegemonic order is the cause to the decline of Keling autonomous machine networks. So so there is a global, there's a changes of global and order. There was, treaties that benefited only the colonial masters. There were, So let's say, for instance, these two things, causing the civil war. Yeah, it caused more division between the sultanate and their own people, the Ule Balang, the Raja. So for this one, I think you need to understand the social structure and political structure in that sultanate. And also the other thing is that, there is that kind of debt increasing, Basically, if we talk about this one, then we talk about the history of security itself, like how basically the British and the Dutch, the British especially dominantly supplying soldiers and weapons, to the sultanates at that time to fight against their own people, to fight against the people that rebelling against their rule. So here it is the beginning of that kind of, mindset of assigning treaty with the defense, with the European defense. Yeah. So and because of this, the Sultanate went bankrupt. Yeah, there were when they have to use the soldiers provided by the British, they have to pay, and they could not pay in cash. Of course, they could not pay at the same time the whole amount, and it went to credit system. So they use this credit system, and there is war going on, and the economic was disturbed. So so it affected the economy as well at the time. Yeah. And this is the name of the ships, that belonged to the South Indian merchants. Yeah. And some of them written in many, many pages of reports from Madar's factory records, for instance. I can talk so much about this, but I think we need just to pass. So during this time, many wealthy merchants went bankrupt. Yeah, because of the situation, the blockade, the colonial, the war. So And here is the continuation of that. The second point is that the fact that currently Keling has been taken as derogatory is because of this plantation industry. Yeah, because of this development. Yeah, that was initiated, that believed by the British as progressive. They have to develop. They have to do development. By planting more by opening more land. For plantations. For capitalism, right? So the guy who has to work in those plantations were not natives. They were shipped. They were shipped hundred of thousands from South India. So it was a forced migratory flow. They were shipped from South India to work in the plantation with the low wages, and those laborers, not, of course, like if you ship 100,000 of people, not all of them are educated, right? So some of them just they were the result of the war that going on, the colonial war in South India, and you can think about like what is the state of these people when they arrived in Malaya, for instance, and some in Medan, for instance, Sumatra. So this is the case, And there's another thing, is pseudo-scientific knowledge dissemination, and there is newspaper. So at the colonial newspaper in the early 20th century, for instance, or the late of 19th century, tend to shape the characteristic of a race among its people. It's not because of because it is scientific, they believe it. It's not because of something that they want to enlighten and giving you some kind of new knowledge, but simply, because of they want to control. They want to control who gonna get the portion of industrial benefit and who should be isolated. And as I talked previously, that there was a kind of economic rivalry towards the South Indian, the wealthy South Indian merchants, and also the Hadramis and the Chinese, right? So this kind of a system, portraying them as lesser type of people, combining with the ideas of, the kind of Darwinism, the science of biology and race, So yeah, so this is how people start to think, to look at each other in that kind of racial hierarchy type of manner, that you think, okay, South Indian is lesser than the Chinese, or Chinese is better than the Malays, or that kind of stigma basically has been built many, many decades before through this kind of newspapers. Yeah. Okay, so this is the laborers, the plantation, the guy that were paid in low wages, the forced migration, the coolies, yeah, and they are not in Malaya, but in Medan, yeah, and this is the records from Dutch archive, Leiden University, and basically, the Dutch also treat the South Indian the same, like how the British, treat them. The Dutch, colonial officers tend to call them bastard, cunnings, untrustable, something like that. Even though those South Indian they affiliated to has that kind of qualification, they were polyglot. They know the voyage system. They know the law, something like that. So they were educated, but still, that kind of things continue during the colonial imperial period. So yeah, I think by this, this is just a sample of the newspaper that distributed at the time. And this is the things that I just want to compare, the fact that, now there is a kind of sensitivity towards, foreigners, right? Or the killing, in some areas. I would like to just put a comparison, side to side on how basically, on what basically has changed. And that particular thing is very clear is the global order. Yeah, so this is the Indian nation global order. I will call it. I don't know. Maybe this is need further research. Maybe this is not. Maybe there's that kind of geopolitical type that disseminated from the global order Indian Ocean that is in fact the Strait of Malacca and so on. Yeah.